Honesty is incredibly important for constructive political discourse for obvious reasons. We've all witnessed countless examples of individuals telling lies and obfuscating the truth, therefore aiding in the spreading of disinformation and tainting people's worldview. While it's easy to establish that it's wrong for a politician to lie, what approach do we take when someone characterises themselves as an entertainer who dips their toe in politics now and then? Well, I'm just going to spell out the obvious. Lying about politics is bad. It doesn't matter how you label yourself, you can't defend lying about politics, because the potential impact is so high. That hasn't stopped people from trying though. Tucker Carlson's lawyer recently defended him after he was accused of slander by saying that Carlson is not stating facts and is engaging in exaggeration, which as lawyers speak for he's deceiving his audience and manufacturing outrage for increased viewership. This behaviour is cowardly because Carlson is not being transparent at all with his audience. If he had a disclaimer at the start of the show, stating that it was full of lies and that it should only be taken as entertainment, then I suppose that would be acceptable. However, what would be the purpose of his show in that case? Deceit is the point of his show, and taking that away makes it pointless. Another great example of this sort of behaviour comes in the form of a man called Mark Meechan, who goes by the name of Count Dankula. He's a Scottish comedian who has a popular YouTube series called Absolute Mad Lads, which I highly recommend by the way. In his videos he's rarely political, apart from the odd jab at the left, but outside YouTube he's anything but. In 2018, Meechan joined UKIP, a far-right British political party, alongside deplorables such as Carl Benjamin and Paul Joseph Watson, and the following year failed to be elected as a member of the European Parliament. He shortly after left UKIP, and in 2020 he joined the Scottish Libertarian Party. Meechan's politics revolves heavily around championing free speech, since he was prosecuted after he made a controversial Nazi pug video. It's a really dumb video and in poor taste, but he didn't deserve to be prosecuted, and the Scottish courts certainly overreached in this instance. However, Meechan has used this incident to his advantage to justify a lot of positions he holds, and to signal that the left are the true enemy of free discourse. He's posted many controversial things, such as 1350, which I'll let Meechan explain and defend himself on.
Despite making up only 13% of the population, black people commit 52% of the crime.
Yeah, I've heard that one before, but from some very unsavory people.
Yeah, it's just that whenever I say that, I'm just trying to annoy people.
The only issue is that his audience weren't annoyed at all. They actually seemed to really enjoy it, even making their own racist posts and jokes in the comments. 1350 is something that many white nationalists spread to justify their beliefs surrounding their racial superiority. But don't worry, it's just a joke. A common tactic that bigots employ to signal to others their beliefs is to call certain things bait. How this works is that a right-wing commentator will post something that is the opposite of what they believe. This isn't intended to trigger their supporters, but to inform them of their viewpoint without breaking social media terms of service by being racist, for example. Let's unpick this example of bait. The tweet of the right-winger reads as follows: "The truth is that Muslims are treated better in Russia or China than in the United States." Meechan and his supporters all call this bait, meaning that they believe the opposite of the statement, and therefore believe that the US is more tolerant to Muslims than Russia and China, obviously signalling that the US is too tolerant of Muslims. If you are in any doubt, there's a guy in the comments calling for Muslim concentration camps. What can I really say about that? That's as blatant as it gets. There are many other posts that Meechan has made which I'll display throughout the video, and these are only within the past month and a half. Some of them you can brush off as a joke in isolation, but in aggregate it paints a picture of someone who is highly intolerant. While the "I'm not a racist, I'm just a comedian" excuse can be valid in certain circumstances, such as Meechan's Nazi pug video, it's not an all-encompassing argument, and you have to draw the line at some point and take responsibility for your actions. Tweeting about 1350 surely has to be past that point, mainly due to there not even being a joke. Where's the joke here? It's disgraceful to call this comedy. So why are Meechan's audience so on board with the racist talking points? That doesn't seem normal at all. Well, every online figure cultivates their audience to some extent, and they over time become somewhat of a reflection of themselves. Meechan has a long history of posting bigoted views, But don't worry though, it's just a joke, so it's completely harmless, and the only people being harmed are the triggered libs, right? The straight answer is no, because defense of an offensive joke is based around intent. You can use this defense in the Nazi pug video, because the content is hyperbolic, and the idea of a pug becoming a Nazi is just ridiculous, which indicates it's just a joke, and not to be taken seriously. Context was also given at the start of the video that being a Nazi was horrible. Meechan's other posts aren't hyperbolic or include context, and therefore indistinguishable from white supremacy dog whistling. Dog whistling is an effective tactic that racists use to signal to their followers that they're indeed a racist. But why not just actually say openly racist things to signal that you're a racist? Apart from it being against the terms of service of the main social media platforms, being openly racist is not an effective tactic to bring people over to your point of view, even if you're a white supremacist. Dog whistling is much more effective, since it doesn't reveal your true beliefs, but allows the true deplorables to be able to infer what they wish from your actions, while not isolating the more tolerant sections of your audience. So it's a win-win. Although the supposed jokes are identical to the rhetoric shared by white supremacists, it's impossible to determine Meechan's true intent. However, we can certainly speculate. When you join political parties with a track record of racism, have an audience full of racists, and surround yourself and defend people such as Tommy Robinson, the former leader of the English Defence League, a white nationalist hate group, then it can be heavily implied that you might hold some serious biases. In all honesty, I don't really care what beliefs Meechan holds. I think everybody can think what they want. But I do care about how those beliefs manifest into actions within the real world, and his actions have certainly damaged discourse for the following reasons. Apart from racist talking points being bad, I don't think I have to explain this point, but maybe I do, I don't know. The damage caused by Meechan's actions causes impressionable apolitical people to be fed far-right talking points while they are being marketed as edgy jokes, because Meechan is so above the fray. It's not like he's heavily invested within political structures that hold real power and could potentially affect real-world policy, likely making the world less tolerant. I understand that I'm using some highly charged language, and some people might say, what's the big deal? It's just memeing and having a good time online, pushing the boundaries of racism. What's the harm in that? It's not the real world anyway. To that I say it's important to not underestimate the reach of online figures, since they reach generally a young audience that can have their entire worldview warped by engaging in this sort of discourse, which can have real-life consequences. I wonder whether Meechan is just a nihilist who doesn't really care about the consequences of his actions, or hasn't thought through his viewpoint from first principles, and just gets on better with right-wingers in a social setting. That's just speculation, of course, and I guess we'll never know. The irony of this whole thing is that the rhetoric of Meechan is enabling the especially unsavoury sections of the right, and gaining them more influence. These groups are the most responsible for clamping down on free speech, which is the main thing that Meechan bases his views around. We see many examples from Trump silencing free speech through threatening and curating journalists, as well as his supporters themselves being complicit through either blindly supporting his actions or perpetuating bigoted views towards minorities and the LGBT community. This negatively affects the free speech of those groups, because they feel dissuaded from participating in public discourse through fear of receiving intimidation and harassment, and will therefore not have their voice heard. Under no circumstance should the government intervene in dealing with public figures such as Meechan. But if we don't call out the actions of people such as him, who lie on the fringes of the far right, then we blind ourselves to be able to identify true racists, because they will be camouflaged by a load of edgy meme lords who are saying the same thing. We'll never know what Meechan actually believes, because he'll deny anything you throw at him, but what we do know is that he's making the world a more intolerant place.